Hey, welcome back into Eye on Agriculture. I'm Brityne Rucker. A warm spring this year has resulted in rapidly maturing wheat, and there has been some recent questions about spraying herbicides on wheat that has already headed. To answer some of those questions, I'm with Sarah Lancaster, weed management specialist with K-State. Now, Sarah, unfortunately, as we know, there are few herbicide options to spray after wheat has reached the boot stage. What can we do during this stage?
Yeah, so there are a few herbicides that have a label for up to the boot stage, and those include some products like fluroxypyr or starane types of products, some products that contain bromoxynil, so Moxie might be a trade name that your audience is familiar with, and then products like Husky and Talinor. So those would have the latest. But, at this point in the season, we're pretty much seeing headed, at least I am seeing headed wheat pretty much everywhere I go. So really, herbicides aren't an option anymore. And to be honest, the weeds that are in the field have kind of already done the damage they're going to do. They've already taken the yield. And so now we're just trying to manage for harvest efficiency and maybe weed production.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, a lot of wheat has already reached that boot stage. When is the next opportunity to apply herbicides?
Yeah, so about this time of the year and in the next coming weeks, I will start to get calls on pre-harvest herbicides for wheat. So generally speaking, the herbicide labels for pre-harvest use are written, and they say you have to wait until wheat has reached the hard dough stage. Each of the labels will kind of word that a little differently, but that's, a good kind of rule of thumb to start looking at. The other thing that folks need to be aware of about that application timing would be that they need to check the label of the specific product they're using to make sure they have the appropriate pre-harvest interval. Those pre-harvest intervals range from 3 days for products like Sharpen up to 2 weeks for products like so, there's only a handful of products to choose from, so checking that label is really important.
And Sarah, we know that spending money on these resources, that can be hard. So what do you tell producers to make that leap and go ahead and apply?
Yeah, so producers are pretty good at knowing how much trouble they're going to have with green weeds going through their combine, right? At this stage in the game, that's really what we're after, is making sure we can get the combine. And so really it's up to that producer and how they're familiar with the combine to know what is the percentage of they need to see in their field in order to justify the expense of the herbicide. Honestly, there's not a lot of economic, hard dollars and cents that we can push a pencil on this time of year. A lot of it just has to do with being able to get that combine through the field.
Well, Sarah, thanks so much for coming on the program. Everyone stick around. Eye on Ag will be back after the break.